Yeah. All right. I started early because, I did. And we're hanging out. Right? Right, buddy? Yeah. Okay. I've got some fun stuff planned for today, including doing some application to an existing. I drew something this morning. I'm going to apply some tissue papers and different papers to the surface of it, and we're going to build it up from there. So we're going to be using some matte medium and some gesso as our binding agents, and the hits will just keep on coming. Okay, so today's page, right? You want to say hi? Good. All right. I did today's page on Friday, and let's have Corbin tell you about it. Yeah, so anyways, Chris did today's page on Friday. It's from suggestion by somebody who did not write down. I think it was Paul, and it's about a page that is about Paul and not changing the batteries in his smoke detector. Thank you, Corbin. All right, so this is fun. This is a fun one. I drew it largely on a piece of cardstock that I had, brushed some ink over or did, put some ink on a piece of plastic and then slapped it and dragged it across a piece of cardstock. And so that completely unrefined texture that it gives you is a fantastic foundation to start drawing on. Now, I'm quite pleased by that, and I think it turned out pretty well. In addition to that, a little bit of white pencil crayon. So black pen, white pen, little white pencil crayon. And that's it. The rest of it's just digital lettering, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoy trying different things, and I enjoy applying, techniques, storytelling, and techniques in creating the pages, the mark making, in different ways. And so this one was a bit of fun because there's a break of pacing. We've got standard 9, which is a way a lot of people break their pages down. But then I've added those 6 panels at the bottom, and good fun in the sun to me. So yeah, anyways, I'm quite pleased by this page. It's the 26th so far this year. So I'm 4 pages ahead on our count this year. So good feelings. And in addition to that, I've already drawn the 27th. I had a meeting this morning and a little time before that I drew this page out, and it just sort of, sometimes they just spill out of you. And this is an instance of that. So I thought I'd play a little bit with surface and building this up. What in the world's going on upstairs? I'm not sure. Okay, so there we are. So here we are with today's page, and I'll flip it over to the overhead camera so you can see what I'm talking about. This is a page that I just drew. I'll pull out on a larger view and move that camera around a little bit so you can see the image. All right, so with the way that this is laid in here onto the surface, I've got your larger image, but then off to the side, I've got 3 side panels that carry on the narrative. And there's these 3 panels sit over top of this image, which sits over top of this image. So it's kind of a fun way to break it down. I think that for the interest of today's, the way that we're going to approach the work, I think I'm just going to try a couple different things here and see what that gets us. Now, I've changed up the way I've got my mic set up. I've changed up the way I've got a camera rig I built, and with an overhead so that I can zoom in and out when I want to, and focus in and out when I want to, and then better camera and lighting in general. So thank you for those that have been encouraging and supportive about this process along the way, trying to figure this all out. And hopefully, this is going to make some difference. But again, I'm not overly concerned. This is going to sound terrible, but I'm not overly concerned about all that spit and polish because I really just want to do what I'm doing. And if you want to come and join me in the process, that's great. But my ego isn't so fragile that it's it's dependent upon it. So, all right. So I just you always notice when you're cleaning up your inks that you always notice a couple spots you missed. Always, absolutely. But the way it always goes. So I haven't filled in any solid blacks here through the most part. There's a couple of lines that I just hit that one, and I hit the teeth and the clergy characters mouth in the last one. That was really primarily for it to be a reminder for me, really, about just sort of, it sells this the crazy grimace smile better, and which informs me a little bit better about the image before you get any further with it. So I got a few different things today. I've got some gold tissue paper. I've got various different tissue papers here, as well as I've got some parchment paper that's got ink that's been brayered off acrylic that's been brayered off on it, and some paper with some musical notes on it. So this is some of the stuff that we're going to throw into here. Now, with the incorporation of the gold paper, I think what I'm going to end up doing is doing some gold hits through the composition. But to start things off, let's get some stuff down on the surface here. Now, I've already inked it, and I don't, off the top of my head, have some advanced knowledge on how well this ink is going to stay without spreading around, but that's okay because we'll use that. Don't worry about situations like that. I always incorporate them in. So you can see how, because I've already inked this image, that as I'm putting the tissue paper down on top of it, it is, you can still see through it. So you can still do the inking part of, or the working from your initial drawing in the further stages, because you've already done the inking part. Now, in cases where you've got elements that aren't transparent, like this musical sheet here that I'm going to put down, this is where I'll stick it in some place where I really don't have a lot of composition already established, just so I don't have to monkey about with it any further. But, so, this is just building up. Now, the tissue paper, when it sort of catches itself up and folds over, I like to leave that because I think it makes it a little more interesting, honestly. Yeah, and it's what day? I don't even know what day it is. This is the thing about working in the studio all the time, is that really you sort of forget days of the week, but I'm not complaining. I'm doing the thing that I enjoy doing. We had a rough weekend, so this is kind of nice to be able to keep doing the thing that I'm doing. All right, so even though I've already got some material down here, I'm still going to hit over top of it with this gold tissue paper because I can. I don't know how transparent this is though, so I'll try it over here because I don't think I can really see through it. So I don't want to put it in any place that's got too complex an image underneath it. So the whole idea with putting all this stuff down on the surface is it monkeys with the surface a little bit, but it also gives a little bit, it just makes it a little more interesting. Yeah, I'll throw this here. Got lots of matte medium on this brush. I want to turn that, I want it to be, there we go. Now, the matte medium is still going to be a little, it's going to have some resist to it. So really, I want to be able to touch in spots here. Like if I try to run watercolor over top of this, it's going to just flat out resist it. And, you know, we don't want that too much. But we're going to still have some fun. Build up some shapes, build up some stuff. Another piece of this jazz. Throw this in. There we go. And I guess I want to put a couple more of those gold elements that I talked about. So I think the best place to do that would be up in here. Okay. I guess it's a little bit more of this right over here. Just, you know, it doesn't, as long as it's not interfering with the composition, great. In the sense that, you know, we have to incorporate it in whatever elements we're adding to it. And if we don't do that, then it's an interference. If we do, then it works to our benefit to just add a little more interesting sophistication to the surface. Okay, some of this gluing down that I'm doing is not in the frame at the moment, but in order for me to work faster, I can't, I'm not going to monkey around shifting the camera all over the place. Okay, yeah, I got one more piece of that and one more piece of this, and I think that'll be enough. Yeah, we'll put this in here. Let's see why are you making? Sorry. Yeah, no, that's all okay. That's all good. And then we'll put this last piece of musical notes in here at the top. And make sure we get that all in there. Now, ideally, I want all this to dry up, and I'm going to play a little bit with this medium that I have on my brush, just to make some lines moving around in the surface here. Okay, so there's how I've got a whole bunch of different parts of things stuck down. I'll drop the camera a little bit lower. Am I able to? Or am I going the wrong way? I was going the wrong way. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, so we've got, there's our main image that we'll focus on for the first moment here. And I'll throw all these little pieces of scrap back into the folder. Well, one folder that I keep on the shelf here in my studio, and it's just chock full. I'll show you. It's just absolutely chock full of different things to put in to the surface of an image. Some cool grass paper, some craft paper, just different tissues in general, and just fun patterning like that. You can look back and see some of the things that I've been doing of late with mixed media surfaces as I'm working here in the studio. Let's clean this brush up. Okay, so what I got now is, this is a gesso, and so I'm just going to do a light dusting of the gesso over the surface. Now, the black line is going to still peek through. And so depending on how hard I would apply, like how thick I would apply it, I would lose some of what I've drawn, and we don't want that. So Corbin's exploring over here. But you can still see the lines coming through, and that's fine, because the next thing that I'm going to do is go back into it, into the composition, and put some value to everything. So some different mark making tools. Storytelling is a challenging enough pursuit to get all those sort of key elements involved. So sometimes this is a strange idea, but sometimes I find it a workaround to the sort of pressures and anxieties that you can have sometimes in creating an image and creating an illustration for a project, is to disassemble the typical approach to it and come at it from a different way, or apply some of that to it, like, traditionally drawn, though, threw some ink down, but now I'm going to make, a completely different approach to the illustration part here. And that's all fun and well and good. So here we go. Let's throw in some more gesso down here. And so the gesso, like I said, the part that is got some matte medium to it will work as a resist for some mark making material that we put on top. So throwing the gesso over top of that should open it back up again, give it enough workable surface. But in order to keep some sort of consistency to the marks I'm putting down, and this is why I'm lightly brushing the gesso over the whole surface, and it sort of ties it back down again and diffuses the heavy intense values of some of the papers. So this is where they sort of become accent colors again. I was thinking that gold would be way too prominent, and I would have to turn gold into a more prominent value in the whole thing. I've never really liked the ostentatiousness of gold, like just the whole. It's hard to use it very subtly without it just becoming kind of overwhelming, and it can easily become quite tacky. Okay, so again, I've moved over into an area that's not as easy to see, but just finishing the last couple panels, these portraits of our main character that you see standing here. Well, I'm just throwing this light dusted gesso over it. These last 3 panels like I have for the larger image. So the way this page works, I said it earlier, the page works that this image is set over top of by this image that embosses onto it, and the panel break here, and then these 3 images that are over on the side, partly covered up by my gigantic noggin, sit on top of that. And so it's a kind of a little bit of a layering of the panels, but ideally it's going to keep the eye moving on. It's a sort of subconscious way of keeping the mind moving forward. Okay, so I've got this dusting of gesso down on everything. We've got the tissue paper that's all laid in, and we've got the mat medium we used to bind that down, and then I've got this brush of gesso over top. And so it's drying fairly quick. It's really tacky over on this side, but this side worked pretty good. So my thought was today, I thought I'd come in. Now I gotta let some of this dry a little bit more, but I've got, I'm gonna cut some more of these little lines back in before I lose them as it's drying. There we go. Just lightly throwing those back in. So despite, some of these surfaces that have been put down, like these patterned tissue papers and stuff like that, we can still pull our image through them. There we go. I think that might be, I think everything else is pretty good. Okay, so there's our start. Now, as I've got all of this, well, I guess I can do something a little more to pull this shoulder up. This material that's over this person's shoulder. So I've got a piece of black pencil crayon, colored pencil here, and I might put a holder on it. I've got all these different mark making tools in this container here. I'll show you. And just all similar in size. But I've got these grips that make it so much easier to draw with a short pencil. Invaluable sort of thing to have when you really want to save your tools. Why throw away things if you don't have to, really? Okay, so here's the thought. Now I've got the black pencil crayon, and I've got this Mastercraft. This is just a carpentry pencil. So I considered about running that throughout the composition, but I still need to let this side still tacky. But I can start working over here. So with the graphite, and the colored pencil, I've also got some Posca, and I've got the gesso medium as well. I've been considering about putting in some straight heavy white acrylic as well, but we'll push and pull again with these different values. So I'd also considered about putting some color into the people's faces. We'll see. At the very least, though, I want to get some lines in here and build up this image, this composition. Now you can see some of the brush strokes peeking through now. that. It's kind of fun. I hope anybody that has joined in today had a great weekend. Three of the grandkids slept over Friday night and pretty much wiped us out for the rest of the weekend. I'm exploring more of the internet as time goes on. I'm just looking out there at new things and the new processes and that. I think there's a real gift in that, especially not to get. You don't have to sit down and just sort of get locked in on these are the 5 things you look at. But I found some really cool and interesting approaches to stuff. There's a lot of stuff that's coming up on YouTube channels that has AI in it, and there's just this part of me that wants to say, maybe use real illustrators or real artists for your projects. So I'm drawing right over top of some of these surfaces. You can see nice little lines that peek through here, some of the textures that are in the tissue that was applied. I'll bleed over the exterior line here in some of these instances because I know I'm going to clean it up in a minute anyway, so what am I worried about? You can see as it's dry, you can get nice, cleaner, tighter lines on the surface, despite the fact that you're working on top of a gesso. That's just nice, Got a couple of jobs on my plate right now, which I'm not going to complain about, not by half. Feel very blessed to be doing all these things. And, it's nice. It's nice when people reach out to you and say, hey, can you do this thing? Yep. It's a good feeling. I haven't been paying attention to chat or anything today. Sorry about that. It just, sometimes oftentimes I'm in the flow, but appreciate people hanging out. I'll answer whenever I can. Anything anybody asks me today. As usual, you're always welcome to, if you have a 1-page story idea you want to challenge me with, hit me. Don't hit me. I'm sensitive. Always open to those. Want to talk about whatever you're working on? Great. Spread the word, Larry Bird. So I'm just putting this sort of gray tone down on everything, or very different, softer edge to everything than the initial sharp lines that I started things with. There's going to be a lot of heavy contrast blacks in here. It's fun building all that up. Build it up, push it back, build it up again. There we go. Yeah, so hopefully it sounds better. Hopefully the lighting's all better. And I've got the ability to zoom from above now, so that's kind of nice. So when I'm drawing things, I'm often thinking about beyond the part that I'm working. Like if when I'm drawing, I tend to be thinking about where it's going next, and sort of thinking ahead when we're working gives us an ability to sort of bend and flow in what we're working on, and you don't have to worry so much about all the details and the lines because you know you're going to come in and build up surface and build up the form, the shapes of the face and things like that with the next step of the process, which is like in this context where I'm using this black pencil to build up all this gray tone and value through it. But I'm still leaving areas that are clearly I'm going to hit with a hard black, like just a solid fill, right? Like even this one here is going to be a solid fill, but it's it's just a different way to come at it. This is going to be a hard black. This is going to be a hard black. But I don't want this to stand out too much, but I also don't want to lose the form, the defined form of this lady as she's sitting here. So I'm going to put this heavier gray in. And then we're going to define some of this shadow here. See, same thing with the difference between this and this plane, like they sort of blend into one another. So as best I can do is sort of push this line in between them to separate those two large black fill areas. So working on top of the tissue paper in the areas that I got that, working on top of the medium, the matte medium, the gesso medium, is that it gives different textures underneath, and you'll see really fun granulations and stuff like that where this sort of interferes with, when you got a clean, nice, flat piece of paper, the lines are as the lines are going to be from the tools that you use. Different levels of granulation, things like that. But when you start manipulating that surface by, adding medium to it and adding, you modifying it with different pieces of paper and textures like that, it's going to completely shake up what your tools are doing when it comes to making marks. I like that. And I think that the character that brings out from the drawing, that it brings up from there with these cool granulations and separations, and you'll see things like musical notes peeking through things, or these random blemishes of information from the different surfaces that you applied. All of that to me is kind of compelling because it just gives a little bit more something interesting to look for, something interesting to look at with your eye and to move your eye around. I hugely advocate for other people to try that. So I'm just putting in some of these raised areas, these parts that'll be more exposed. There's, again, going to be black fill areas in here. Really excited. One of my sons was over today for something, and we're going to get back together again to try to help out further with what we were doing. And I think I found the thing that solves the dilemma at hand. I think I found something today that I'm really excited to tell about. Good stuff. Okay, so got this fellows with his legs crossed here. So one of the things that I can do with different applications, a different medium, like the Posca can cut sharp lines back into the over top of pencil crayon or marker or whatever it is, the tools that I've used putting down information. Poscas are pretty good for pushing it back out again. In the case that in the way that I use it, like I use a white Posca on top of some darker marks put down to sort of push some white information, some negative information back into that space. Give a little more form, shape, form, content to the image. It's that push and pull I often talk about, of putting marks down, taking marks off, looking at it from both angles of positive and negative marks. So it comes together fairly quick. And like you can see with the tissue paper here, that's sort of incorporated into the image now. When I put some white down on top of that, which I will, it's going to push it back a little bit more. And then in the background here, some of these papers that are put down on the surface, they're going to get incorporated. They're just going to be incorporated elements into these windows, heavy contrast with around the windows. So there'll be some pretty solid white drops, into some of these areas, so that they'll just flat out remove some of the different marks, information notes with words, colors, right? So this is the bench that they're all sitting on. So here's the young fellow running up to the table. Not sure what he's asking. You never know what kids are going to ask anyways when they run up to a table at a public thing. Hey, somebody for some ice cream. Where are you going to get ice cream? Situations like that always come up. All right, let's come together. Just looking over at the camera and see how that looks for you. So I'm pretty pleased. Nice and brightly lit, and I got it in on the image and staying there. Okay, so here around the legs is where I'm going to start cutting out. And these areas that I've colored but left all these voids open is because these voids are going to be hits of black. So, it's another bench leg. And again, I got to. So what I mean by that is this. I'll show you. And I talk about cutting out. So this is a white Posca, and I'm going over this tissue paper and just putting some of these lines back in to shape around the contour of these figures. Just putting some of that back in there. And let's see what do I got over here. I can do that there. Just cleans it up, tightens up some of these areas for their value. And it's kind of nice that, because it just sort of keeps the white areas consistent. Now some people, when they're doing their when they're adding value to the surface, they start with the heavy areas of, like, start with fill all your blacks first and say, I find that I like building up to it as opposed to just going with the heavy contrast immediately. But I know that I kind of have an idea of the composition in my head, so I can build up to it. It is a real help for others to come at it the other way. So I'm never going to say the one way or the other's the better of the two. It's whatever works for you. But I like to work it up. I like to work up to it. Still haven't sharpened this pencil. I'm just rolling it around to get the sharper edge. Just pull it back around. Turn the pencil over in your hands is what I mean by that. So I've got some sneakers and some shoes coming back in here now. I'm just gonna sort of helps to figure out whose legs are in front of whose, and got all these different types of shoes. Again, fill. What I mean by fill is it's just black area, right? Black area over here. Just working my way up through it. There's a horizon line that cuts through here that defines. Here's our foreground, and it's sort of implied that it's defined by this line moving across here from the waist to the stage and to the bottom of the feet. And then there's a secondary, so there's our foreground here. And our midground is this area here, this space inside here. And there's a line there that sort of runs through the center of it. And then there's the windows that run along into the top 4/5 of it. It's, and then we've got, of course, Grand Prix a little bit taller, and in the background, of course, is this third plane behind that, which is just basically the scene itself. So I'm just going to come in. I'm going to get a ruler and put some lines in. Now, I'm going to put some lines in, and I'm going to take some lines out. My. All right. Listening to a bunch of old 80s tunes, and some of them that come in here. I do not want to hear those ever again. Eddie Money. Just pretty much skip through everything. Eddie Money. 70s and 80s. Okay, so that line runs up to here. So I haven't drawn all of this information in the initial breakdown of the windows, because I know that some of it's just going to be, how do I explain this? It's the sort of shaded areas in between. Like you've got your trim around the window, but then after that base of the wall is going to be pretty grayed out, pretty washed right out. So let's go fill in this part of the window. Now, some of these surfaces that are down here are easy to come up, and so just sort of got to take care. You can see one spot there already that I've had that with That's okay. That's okay. I don't in any way, shape, or form claim to be. There's a lot of people that jump on these here old interwebs. You know, oh, let me judge your work. I hate stuff like that. But if there's any questions that anybody ever has, like, why did you do that? Feel free to ask. I'll give you the standard reply. I don't know. So there's the ceiling line that moves across there. And so that sort of has me coming through here. Now you can see, this is one of the things I want to show. You can see how the color's peeking through. You can see how the textures of the papers are peeking through. I likes it. That's the stuff that makes me go hippity hoppity. These are the sort of things that baby become a gangster rapper. So now I've got to do this. Space through here. What did I just say? Eddie Money comes on, I turn it off, and what's the next thing on my playlist? Take me home tonight. Oh, Prince. I'm here for that. So all of these little bits and bops that are popping through here now from pieces of like tissue paper pieces that are down in these little. See, I can make. You can see these extra little. Let's see, is that picking up? You can see these extra little lines popping up. That's because I'm brushing over the surface with the pencil crayon, and it's picking up the peaks. You know, I love that. That's the sort of stuff that, you know, it's marks that can be put down that people will go, how'd you make those marks? You and I know. You're not going to explain it to them. Keep the normals guessing. Keep the non-artsies guessing out there. Oh, how'd you make orange? We know, huh? The background really doesn't need to be intricate and involved and all kinds of information, but we're going to do some more things to sort of play with the light of it, but it doesn't need to be really complex and ornate. It just doesn't. It's the background. It's not what we want our emphasis. We're trying to tell a story, and in telling a story, our focus is in the foreground. So I don't care how much it says to you. I want to be in the picture. You tell it no. It's helpful advice, isn't it? You say no. Raise your finger up and do this. Yeah. We come in here like this, like I mentioned earlier about putting in and taking out. So this is where coming in with that Posca. Really, no matter what's already down here in these different surfaces that we attach this, like these different tissue papers we attach to the surface. There's just some fun information for us to keep that non-artsies guessing. Now my playlist just got Hall & Oates coming on, and I can go for that. That's a good song joke, even though the song's Man-Eater. I'm an excellent swimmer. So even though this information really doesn't mean anything to the composition that's in the tissue paper here, this text, I just like what it adds to the surface. So as I go over this area, it's just an opportunity. But it sort of does some interesting things with that surface now, so that you can see, things in there that this is boring otherwise. It's a boring area. That's why we want to just have some fun and throw some shapes and some activity in there, even though windows in the background. And the reason that I haven't continued across here and I've moved back to there is that I don't want to smudge this all out as I'm going into this background area. So as soon as we get this cleaned up, we're back and running across the surface. So there we go. Okay. So this again, here's these musical notes, this paper, this little raised area that as I just lightly going over with the pencil, it's making this harder line. All stuff I wouldn't lose. All stuff that's sort of part of the reason why I put these different things into the surfaces of the illustration. If I do what I'm doing correctly, you're focused on these people and this guy, and you're not focused on this nonsensical text in the background. So, we're all in it together. Okay. All right. I'm going to come in with this white. To give that a little more shape. See, I don't want to lose all of the stuff that was supplied to us by those different tissue papers and the musical note paper and what. I don't want to lose all that. So while I might pull out part of the form around it, I'm not going to disrupt the entire thing. Okay. Again, not the important part, right? So, okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Pardon me. So the question I have to ask myself is, how am I going to put the black in? Am I going to use a colored pencil? Am I going to use like a marker? Am I going to use an ink or a watercolor application? I like the idea of coming in with some watercolor hits because to me, there's a little bit of play in that. So I've got my watercolor set. There's the black. and because it's gonna make some interesting things happen. And the surface material that I have done already, like the matte medium, the gesso, might chop up the watercolor as I put it down, move it around, not make it pool in different ways because of where the allocation of the medium is, or the gesso is. This is still kind of a medium. Yeah, see, that's fun. It just, gives a little more, texture, I guess. I almost put my brush in my coffee. There we go. And then I'm going to come back in again with the white, raise those surfaces back up where I might have. And the act of getting some interesting values down, sometimes we'll lose some things that we got to pull back out again. There we go. Okay, now some more Christopher weirdness. I've got here a toothbrush. His name is Hector. So, while I'm, make sure I got enough water in there. So while I've got this building up, I want to go and monkey around with this. Throw, just some spackling in here. It's interesting to me. Little bits of business. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the black as well, and see what that does for it. Okay. Oops, sorry, Jim. I hope you have been sitting there for a while. I apologize. I'm in the zone. So I've got all kinds of things happening here. I don't know how long I've been here, for whatever you heard already. So I decided against putting color in, and to just largely keep it black and white for now. I think I might come in with like some ochre umber, bit, and I've debated on whether or not, because I've got gold application in some of the tissue papers, about doing some of the gold highlighting. But again, I said this before, I think it really overpowers everything. So back to whoops, I got Jim stuff out there. Sorry, sir. So yeah, this is a lot of fun. The suggestion for this page is a village meeting gone wrong. So I'm having a lot of fun building up the village meeting. All right, now I got some ink on the toothbrush next, and I'm going to flick some of this black ink into here. Now, I got to be, and I want to take some care because I want it to come in lightly. I don't want to do big globs, but little bits of information like that before I start putting in the hard black areas. It just gives it a little more something, and it makes a wonderful mess of your finger. But that's this is an ink that I'm using right now. Riri, you join us as well. So, hi, Riri. Welcome aboard. So yeah, so this is, somebody had asked me earlier. I was at Janet Nash's stream this morning. Really talented Janet Nash, and she might be, some kind of enlightened being, because she has just just absolute loveliness as a living organism that just sort of makes everybody around her feel like that. Anyways, somebody in that was asking, because they were talking about tissue paper, and so I put tissue paper in everything. And so I thought, well, I'll do some of that to this image that I've drawn the entire page already. Just drew it this morning between a couple of appointments. And so now we're doing something with it. Sort of, this is poor man's airbrush. Yeah. I spend half my time cleaning my fingers off. Riri says she's wonderful. Yeah, Janet Nash is pretty awesome. Anybody that hasn't ever experienced Janet Nash's stream, please do. I trying to visit all kinds of new things, and because you learn all kinds of new stuff going to different streams and talking with different folks, and you still want to encourage and support peers and friends. And I'm not saying abandon one thing, but definitely so much to see out there. Okay, so while trying to clean off my paintbrush right now, my toothbrush really, and while that's drying, I'm going to come back in here. So I put this sort of spackling in now into this area on top of the pencil crayon. So it gives it something that you can't build up with one or the other. Now I've got this Posca, and where this window area is behind him, I don't want to lose the whole thing. So I might do some lining around the edge, but I don't want to brush over or cover over the entire area. That's why I pushed it out with my finger. But this is getting to be a little more fun as we go. I'm liking that. And then now I think I need to start putting in some solid black areas. Now I've got a couple things that I can choose from. This is a water base. I don't know if I want to. A lot of the Tombow stuff is water-based, and I don't want to apply stuff to the surface just to lose it again. Are you waterproof? So we're going to use this black ink. Oops, I'm sorry, I've left Riri's comment up there. I keep doing that. I'm in the zone, folks. All right, so I've got, and the ink that I'm using is a Winsor Newton liquid waterproof ink, Indian ink. So I'm going to move this so I don't spill it all over myself. I tend to just use like the lid like that, just because it's far more manageable working from the jar nearby. So I'll shake the bottle in my hand and then pull what I want out. From the lid. I'm not worried about big opaque blacks here. I'm more interested in this, all the interesting information we get by giving it a little bit of translucence. But it's dark enough to know that it's a solid area. Still does the job as being a large black filled in area. It just doesn't have to be opaque. Little accent points. Is that clear? I think I got the cameras changed up now so that you can see things far more clearly. Spent some time putting that together this weekend. And this is filling in all these black areas that I had intended when I was doing the drawing part, but I didn't bother filling them in because I wanted to build everything else up first. So now that as I come in and drop these large black fill areas in, it's just sort of finishing off what I had initially intended. Hopefully, it's interesting. And then I've got the big lower half of this fellow. There we go. A little too opaque over there. I'm using a smaller brush than I could be because it's comfortable. I can do all kinds of different lines with it. Now I could jump over to another brush for areas and then back to this one, but we're already here now. We already got dressed up. Might as well go to the show. Oops, went the wrong way. Jim says it looks nice and clear. I'm glad. Thanks, buddy. We got spent some time with the camera and the mic, and I built a rig that goes up above and holds everything. And I put a form on my microphone so that it isolates sound a little bit better and picks up my voice better, hopefully, for people. There we go. A little bit of water in here. See, once this is down, it should be waterproof, right? But I can utilize water as a solvent while I'm putting it down. So there we go. Okay, so now into this, kid. Sorry I'm quiet, but again, I keep going into that zone today. Now, I'm going to come through here. I'm going to pick out those edges like this, and then go back into these fill areas. Yeah. So there's a thing that's happening right now where I'm putting down the black wash here. There's a texture on the surface now from both the sort of the friscolated ink that I put down earlier and the pencil crayon. A little bit of resistance going on there. Anyhow, so that's come together. Yeah, and I don't want to get too far across the surface without making sure I've got the large hits in here. I'm listening to a song from the 80s, I'm the Warrior. The Warrior. When I was in high school, I went to a school called Weevil, and our mascot was the Warriors. And this became a big sort of anthem song at the school as they were closing our high school down. It wasn't a very empowering anthem, I guess, but nostalgia kept that playing. It's not a great song. Okay. So hopefully there's enough interesting complexity and depth that I'm putting in these people as I go along to sort of convey separations between them and enough interesting information amongst them that keeps the eye moving across. And it's challenging enough to do an illustration where we're sort of simulating dimension to it, but we still want to keep it fun and interesting. Okay, so now I've got some fun gray areas in here from when I was spattering that ink down, but I am gonna get a little bit tricky and sharpen things up a little bit with this Posca pen around this character here. Just makes them jump up a little bit more. And in addition to that, I should keep a tip of my Posca pen clean here. Where is that? There you are. I'm going to come in here and fill in this lighter gray on the pant leg. So there's the tissue paper that has the musical notes on it, runs through this fella's body here. Just becomes part of them, but you can see it through there. Let's make sure I'm not missing. People feel free to ask me any questions. Hold on. No math. Things like, what are you doing? Or why did you do that? Okay. So just running through that area again with the black light rushing in the black pencil, because I want to pull up some of the lines, the ripples that you get when you're putting the tissue paper down on the surface. Now that I've got this sort of fill in for the area, I don't know, I think it's picking up right here. You can see this sort of differentiation in value right there. And that's what I'm trying to pull out. Because again, it's sort of something that ideally has the viewer stop and look and go, what is in that? What's going on there? You know, what did he do? Okay, so there we go. All right, so now I'm going to come back in with some of this white ink, the Winsor Newton. And again, I'm working from the lid. It's largely because I don't want to pollute the whole thing, right? And I'm brushing over the shoulder really lightly. Just to sort of flatten down some of the information in that. That's really it. That's, you know. And then what I can do is I can take like a heavy white acrylic or something like that and build this part up. That's another thing we can do, just to sort of punch up the windows and give some light to push through them. But I don't want too much because, you know, that would wash out half of this information. And why would I do that to my own thing? So same thing, now that this is dry, I'm going to run through here, trying to pull up some of these crazy textures. There, see, we got these lines coming through here. There's, whoops, it's made a big giant mess. Get Derwent, get over here. No problem, boss. I got these things. You can see the rim, like the sort of edge of this paper coming through here. Fun, very fun. Here it is again in this lady's dress. Just silly little bits of stuff that I don't know if anybody will ever pay attention to but me. And I'm just using a piece of 11 by 17 cardstock turned on its side in the landscape format. Jim says, I've been listening to the show for 45 minutes and not one mention of the Kardashians. What's up with that? I'm just not hip enough. The cease and desist order, that's what it is. I tell you, I got no respect for them Kardashians. Okay, so I've got this black Fudenosuke pen, and I'm just going to come in, and you can see these little emphasis points that I'm touching in with this guy now, and then we'll move on. Been listening to a bunch of random things today, but kind of having fun and listening selections. Because I've been up since, well, it's 20 after 3 here, and I have been up since about 5:30 in there. I'm not sleeping well again. I always had a problem with insomnia. And it's big. So it's not about putting these heavy black lines everywhere. It's just enough to sort of pull things up, like this neck collar. One simple line there, and suddenly the neck collar has more form. Or a little tick behind the ear, you know. It's sort of like when you're painting and you just you're just picking out little values and picking out little tones with your brush, and it's not like you're doing solid outlines around things. That's a place to start, but it's not a place to finish when it comes to painting. It's now everybody has their own approach, but I tend to like to find those little accents. And my background is in painting. That's really what I was interested in when I was younger. And I've shown some of the stuff that I paint here. I've got 3 paintings that I'm working on right now in the studio. There we go. Yeah, feeling good on this section here. Oh, I've got one more thing I want to try. I'm looking for there. Okay, so let's just try to diffuse that a little bit. Yeah. So it's just a white ink that I'm putting over that section around the window to try to simulate that light, Not too much on there. Yeah. I know, not very exciting today, but somebody gets something out of this. Good. It's really cool having Chris join me last week. Chris Philly joined in on Friday. That was a lot of fun. For those that didn't see that, just hanging out with a creative person and chatting about artsy stuff, and I love that. I've got a few more things lined up in the immediate future, but no announcements for us yet. But I'm in a really good space, good creative space right now. It's a nice feeling. Okay. Yeah. Now, so I've got. One second. Okay. Looking for a smaller tube of white because my larger tube of white is on the other side of the room, and that ain't helping me at all. So this is a heavy grade acrylic that I'm using right now. Mm-hmm. So if anybody's working on stuff they want to talk about, feel free to do so. I got all kinds of fun things putting out again. And I got a whole bunch of different things to show people as well. Fun things. I've been trying to search out new stuff on the interweb. And I've come across some stuff. I was saying earlier, I've been coming across tons of people utilizing AI and whatever they're doing now. But those people weren't our friends in the first place because these are the people that everybody clicks onto so they can tell you 10 different farts you can hear in the background of Star Wars. Those people aren't our friends. So this is this acrylic that I'm putting down in the windows. That's done. I'm just about to color in these characters over here next. And then we get over into our main character. Yeah. While I listen to Colin, hey, I'm at work. So just to take a few steps back again, this started as a quick pencil scribble with my Master P, right, with my pencil. And then I went over that in line, black line. Then I affixed to the surface a whole bunch of tissue papers and different papers over top of the original drawing and inking. And so you can still see right down here at the bottom of this image, you can still see some stuff. And you can see how it's now become embedded up in the top of the image here. You know, there's a piece of it still readily visible. And the reason for building all these things up in this way is because we get interesting little pieces of information poking through everywhere. And I likes that. You know, and but it doesn't change the fact that as I'm putting the image down, I'm putting it down regardless of whatever is underneath the principal interest that I want people to look at, the principal image that I want people to look at. So this paisley is, you know, we're going to reduce that out in a second, and you know, just keep going, you know, but try stuff like this. I highly encourage you to do fun things like this in your work. If it does anything, it sort of loosens you up in your process to not worry too much about mistakes and what if I do it wrong? Well, you know, who cares? You're already putting down all this stuff on the surface. And yeah, you're keeping people guessing. Why in the world they do that? Like there's a fun accident. It just says dark right here in this corner. Oh, we've got the secret sauce right here. Malcolm says that the Kardashians are part of the Illuminati. You know, say that more clearly. Kardashians are part of the Illuminati. There you go. Welcome aboard, Malcolm. Salty. All right. Coffee time. I don't even know what is this. It's one of my kids' cups, but it's almost big enough for me. Like this is big enough for me. Okay, so turn this guy up a little bit. That's code for sharpen my pencil. All right, now, so I'm just going to come in. I had a good weekend. I got offered I signed on with one job and turned down another one. And the strange thing about that is if you know something's going to be an antagonism and you don't have to do it, don't do it. If you're kind of in a spot where you don't have much choice, you got to kind of do some things. I get it. But if you don't have to do this thing that you know is just going to not work for you, it's going to turn into some giant headache, pain in the butt. Liberate yourself from that and let it go. I did that off at one thing this weekend, and I feel really good about it. Take things as learning experiences when you go through something, and don't go through it again. Okay, so I think I'm going to carry over some of the what I was doing earlier with the toothbrush and putting down some white and some black ink. Just this nice little, just this little speckling, spattering, whatever the technical term for it is. And just adding some interesting business to the image, but I'm going to do it up in here. I saw how Wyeth used to do this around windows and some of his paintings. Wyeth is a guy that did Christina's World. But there's a lot of Wyeths, right? They're all related. But it just gives, and now you can start to see a lot of those textures, those surfaces in the tissue paper and how it breaks apart. The area, I can't see it on the screen because I've got this silly thing telling me how long I've been going up in the corner there. No more. Because I'm about to draw Grandpa and Junior here. So that pushes back, it's there, but it pushes the background away from our characters sitting here waiting to listen to what townsperson, pastor, the guy at the front of the room is going to have to say. But before we get into him, let's get little Timmy and his grandpa drawn in here. Grandpa, why do fireworks sound like explosions? Well, I can't answer that, Timmy, because of trauma I suffered during the war. So I'm just putting in Timmy's little outfit here. And it's some of this little spackling that was in here already is poking through, and I like that. So in my head, I think about, the shadows in Timmy's legs and stuff like that when I'm initially drawing it down. But after a while, you just sort of have an idea for these things as you go anyhow. But it's kind of fun too when you get to that next stage where it starts to come together. Now, Grandpa's face is fairly washed out from being directly from these here winders. There we go. Yeah, see, that's where there's always a nice feeling when you're working and things start coming together. But you can see there's the line that's running through this character because of where there's tissue paper underneath or colored paper. I'm not sure what the paper is under there now. And that is the fun. This is the back wall of the, community building, church, whatever it is. And I'm leaving places like there's a big space here because this is where text is going to go. So, I've left that fairly open. Now I'm going to come, I got to cut that down a little bit. Too heavy. And then I'm going to come in with that watercolor wash. I'm going to bring it across the rest of this image here now. But I wanted to sort of, build Grandpa up. This is interesting, folks. I appreciate anybody hanging out. It's very nice, yeah. anybody has any complaints or grievances or just general disdain for whatever it is I'm doing. I've got a 1-800 number I'm going to give you to call. I don't know what I'm talking about. So the central area, where there's this line that's around it, this is where the watercolor wash is going to go in here. Just push back these values on Grandpa. Grandpa. So this is where I like to come in and do little breaks, like little highlights, hair and top of hats and things like that, and just sort of just gives a sense of the light hitting it, and at least I find that anyways. How much the viewer sees it, I don't know, but I know it's there. All right. So I've got this all the way across now. So this is going to be a nice, comfy cardigan sweater, like the one I like to wear. And then underneath that, of course, he's got his black clerical shirt. So I think I'm going to finish putting together the rest of this piece here, including down here, and then I'll finish spackling across there, and then the next thing I'll be doing is hem over top. So I'm going to come on tonight. Let's say I'll be here tonight at 10:30. And anybody that wants to join in, I'll keep working on this. And that way, because it was said to me this weekend that they wish they could see the whole thing being done. And I said, well, I tend to only go 1.5, 2 hours, and that doesn't give me enough time to do the whole thing because it takes me about 3 hours to do a page. So I will come back tonight, and I will do the second half, move my way across. So I'll put a thing up for it. I'll put a notification up for it soon. But otherwise, just check here. If people are up and interested, just check here around that time. Just, I'm working anyways, might as well. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to come in with a little bit of that watercolor wash, and then Malcolm says I should still be up then. Cool. Hey, you're welcome. Anybody is. Okay, so yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, so 10:30, I'll put an announcement up for it. I'm just going to come through with this black watercolor like I did over here. Well, we're just going to pick out some of the blacks in here. Now, I say blacks, and in the first person I'm doing this really heavy black, gray, but you know what I mean. But it gives more depth to her having built it up this way, I think. I don't know if anybody else does, but I know for me it just feels like that slow development allows me to figure out how to build up these values. Okay, let's move over here into this fella's beard. I kind of like these flat dark values, but I'm going to come in with pencil crayon over that just to keep a consistent approach to this. So here's the young guy and his grandpa coming in now. So I've been doing some drawing of characters in this style that I'm trying to figure out a way to do animatics with in this approach. Just because I like the depth that it has. And problem is I can't replicate all these panel after panel in this style with fluid movement, so it's going to have to be done like animatics and pull in zooms and but I'm trying to figure something out for that. Do a little animation, I guess animatic. And then I'm going to come in, push those little shadows. Just see what that looks like in the here we go. Yeah, I think that's coming together. Okay. So I've got a couple last things to do. This is me, rather than doing an opaque application of the Posca, I want to brush it across like that. All right. So now I'm going to finish this off with the spackling business, and I'm going to wrap it up at 2 hours. And then tonight we'll do this other half. Okay?
Okay.
Where was I? I don't need to have this wire fly over me anymore. Fully charged again. Okay. So I'm going to lightly come in with the white, and then we're going to come in with some of that, the black as well. I gotta put some. Do that before. There we go. Just a little texture in there. Yeah. Now my finger's white. And I broke my toothbrush vigorously. I have to get a new one. I've been using the same toothbrush for probably about 20 years. Just tragic. Okay, so here we go. I have to come in and clean up these legs now, but black finger. All right. All right, so that's about that for the first half. And tonight I will come back and I will do the other half. So if anybody's interested, 10:30 tonight EST is when I can guarantee that I'll be here. And then I can sort of step through the second half of the page with people. And then I'll explain what's happening in the page. A Village Meeting Gone Wrong is the title. And, I'll explain what, I'll just move the camera for 1 sec. And I'll pull my goofy face off. So here is, and the logo off. So here's the whole, there's the larger part of the image. And then I'll pull, oops, sorry. So you can see the three other faces on this side. And so you can't really see the outline of the panels here because they're not clearly defined. But this image sits on top, the center image sits on top of the left side, and then the three panels on the right sit on top of that center image. And so it'll start to define a little more clearly as we move across. Okay, so that's about it for me today. Thanks everybody for hanging out. I hope you had fun. And hopefully there's something people pick up on that, how I work. But yeah, this is a fun page. This has been a fun page for me to do. And otherwise, I'll be back tonight at 10:30. Bye for now.